we need to talk about SteamDB and Steam charts and player numbers and what this actually means. So I was going to make a video that was going to go into detail on Marathon. We need to talk about Marathon's player numbers. However, this has actually evolved now into a wider ranging topic because we've had Overwatch developers, we've even had Warframe developers talking about the impact of Steam charts on their games. Now, I want to say this at the top of the video. Steam charts and SteamDB give you an accurate number of people playing on the Steam platform. Now, for games like Overwatch, obviously it's available on Battle.net, which is going to be bigger than the PC player base on Steam, right? So the PC player base for Overwatch will be bigger on Battle.net by orders of magnitude than it is on Steam. So in some ways, you can look at the Steam number and go, well, okay, maybe we can multiply that by 4, 5, 6, and then we get the Battle.net number, add them together, then you've got your actual kind of number of people that are playing Overwatch, right? That's some kind of like, you know, napkin mathematics, but it's still something you can look at. But the thing is here, the Steam numbers are accurate. They are, it's data you can verify. Now, when you look at a game like Marathon, it's only available on PC on Steam. There is no other platform where it's got 10 times the players. That is its numbers. So you can see if the game is doing well. Now, it doesn't matter if the game is the best thing ever to you personally. If it is not generating sales, then there's been a problem. Now, that problem may be down to discoverability because there is literally tens of thousands of games launched every year on Steam now. It's very difficult to stand out in the crowd. And this actually begs the question, what should the barometer for success be? Now, for these big AAA studios, the likes of Bungie, when they've spent hundreds of millions developing Marathon, well, they need to make a certain number of sales, right? They've got the box price of the game, they've got the in-the-game cosmetics and monetization. They need to start recouping their cost. And I think it's quite clear by the amount of people playing on Steam, when you can kind of extrapolate that out to the other platforms, it's probably very far off where it needs to be. So it's either going to be a game Bungie and by extension PlayStation are willing to support longer term to get that money back with updates that might delight the player base and bring more people back, or it just ends up with support being removed because it hasn't met metrics. On the other end of this entire game, we're going to keep this extraction shooter focused for now, is Arc Raiders. This is a game which is very casual. It's a good game, but it's very casual in the extraction space, so it's more attractive to a larger player base. Obviously, it's got a much bigger player base than Marathon. Marathon is a niche game within a niche that is extremely punishing, that is very difficult. The PvP enemies, so the other players, are really strong. The PvE enemies are really strong. The maps, the first couple of maps, not great. But as soon as you've spent about 10 hours playing the game, you unlock Outpost. It is incredible. It's one of the best maps I've ever played in any game ever. It is so well made. If you're a fan of System Shock, it's basically System Shock horror extraction shooter all together. It's so well made. It's almost a shame that that wasn't the initial experience people got. But this is a punishing game, right? Also, it's going to have ranked very soon added to the game, and players are waiting for the Cryo archive to open, which is probably going to be a highly complex Destiny-style raid, which again has got limited appeal. This isn't something that's going to get, you know, millions and millions and millions and millions of players. It's not going to reach Arc Raiders levels. So when you go back to that point of how much have they actually spent to develop the game, this becomes a problem, right? If it is 200 million, as is reported, then, you know, what kind of sales they need to hit here to make this a success? It is quite worrying for me. But what I want to do is I want to show some stuff on SteamDB. But before I get over to that, there is one last thing I do want to say. I think developers, when they see big numbers on SteamDB, are all fans for SteamDB because it shows how successful they are. When it shows numbers that are not great, then they are totally against SteamDB. To me, as a YouTuber, this is kind of funny, right? Because you're obviously, you know, you look at the views on your videos and you think, well, that video didn't do very well. What did I do wrong in that video? Can I do something else? Maybe I should try something different. You sort of learn from it. Your performance, let's say, is out there to be seen by the world. And the developers involved in probably quite a lot of games love it when the numbers are massive and it's publicly available, but really don't love it when the numbers are not looking great or they're trending down, because then it's used as a weapon against them to say, well, what you're doing with the game isn't great, it's losing players. Now remember, it's not as binary as that. It isn't just like the game's had a bad update so it's lost players. Like I said, discoverability is an issue. There's so many games getting launched now and people have only got so much time, and it's not like, you know, tens of millions of people and new customers are appearing every single day that can just be, you know, delighted with all these games. But let's just move on to some stats here and look at some stuff. So over on PC Gamer, they're saying, as the Marathon player count discourse reaches peak stupidity, Warframe and Overwatch devs speak up in solidarity. This is big unemployed maidenless behavior, which it is. But also, like I said, this is, you know, like if Marathon came out and Marathon had a solid 500,000 concurrent players, people would be going, oh my God, look at the charts, they look amazing. And the devs would be like, yo, 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 you know what I mean? But because things are looking a bit like, whoa, it's like, and I'll say this, don't you fucking cancel the game, Sony, because I like this game. You bastards. Anyway. Oh dear. Anyway, so Marathon has been surrounded by controversy since, well, its announcement. It's a new game in an established series from days gone by, revived as an extraction shooter, which wasn't quite so mainstream before Ark Raiders. Speaking of, it's also going against Embark's now entrenched extraction shooter, despite both games actually playing very differently. Plus, it's also Bungie, which has its fair share of issues over the years, which is true. But like, you know, for me, and why I play Marathon instead of Ark Raiders is I prefer the ability-based FPS, like sweaty gameplay. That to me is more interesting than the sort of casual Ark Raiders experience you generally get. I mean, I know you can still play Ark Raiders and just go after people, but I just find everything clicks for me with Marathon, right? I like the world. Again, you can each to their own sort of thing. But the facts are, like, again, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I sit here going, it's the best thing ever. The numbers are there to see, and clearly a lot more people are enjoying Ark Raiders, you know. And you can work out why. It's not hard. It is more casual friendly. It's more relaxing to play as a game, but still has its insane moments. Anyway, they go on to say, despite a fairly strong launch and the sentiment online from people who have played the game becoming more positive, which it is, and the reviews on Steam are very positive for Marathon, including many big streamers, many people have been watching its SteamDB player count like a hawk, using a crystal ball to call games you don't like dead. Is cool these days. Warframe's creative director, Rebecca Ford, and Overwatch's senior designer, Dylan Schneider, certainly don't think so. So, Dylan says, is the 50% player drop in the room with us? Because this user here is claiming there's a 50% player drop in Marathon, which is just objectively not true. This is also something that has got to be said. People are stupid and can't read the Steam graphs. Like and also they might not be stupid. They might be doing this completely for rage bait, but they'll put things out there that are completely wrong, right? And they'll read stats wrong, and it'll just create drama where drama really shouldn't exist. So here, then he goes on to say, feel free to dislike and pass up any game you want. More power to you. But this is big unemployed maidenless behavior. Now, and then obviously he shows here, this is from launch. There clearly isn't a 50% drop. Now, there is if you go, I guess, like look at the, you know, the peak and then to the low. Oh, well, there's been a big drop. But obviously, every game is like that. You know, you've got prime time and then you've got off peak. You've got prime time, off peak, and that's the way they go, right? The dream for a dev is to keep the graph going like that. And I'll show you some graphs because I know you fucking love graphs and I love graphs, especially like I said, the rage bait SteamDB. But we'll get onto it. So, responding to a post claim that Marathon lost 50% of its players since the free Server Slam weekend, thanks to Slay the Spy 2 and Pokopia, Schneider says, okay, we're not reading that. We've gone over that. So this bit here says, as someone who knows actual player Overwatch, oh yeah, so he was responding here. So then he does say, as someone who knows actual Overwatch play numbers, I tend to just laugh about SteamDB being used as a mic drop, which, yeah, like I said, Overwatch is special because all of its PC players will be on Battle.net, but also the devs are going to be able to see the aggregate numbers, so from every single platform, which is going to be high for Overwatch, right? Overwatch, for as much shit as the game has received, it's always had a really strong player base. In fact, I can't show you these stats. I don't have them. You're just gonna have to take my word for this. But when I did work for London Spitfire, which was a Overwatch League team, the reason why that team was based in London is because in the UK it had one of the biggest console populations for Overwatch, but Europe was very strong for console. I think Germany actually was quite big for consoles, and it was like these were almost the same size as the PC player base. In some cases they were bigger. So it's always been an interesting one, Overwatch, where it's got a lot of it's always had like a lot of players. But again, it's hard to come by stats. You know, it would be, you know, no one who works at the company is ever going to give you the stats, but we know that by looking at SteamDB, you can say with Overwatch, actually, it's done well with its recent updates, and people have spoken about that. I've made videos on that. Instead of you just going by feelings, you can actually look at stats and go, yeah, it has done fucking well. What the devs are doing is working. So this is why it works for you in some ways. or if it's going for you, the numbers look good, then it works for you, right? Anyway, as someone who knows actual Overwatch players, I've read that, so I'm not going to read it again. I've lost my mouse pointer. I always tend to lose my mouse pointer on PC game. I can't see it. Schneider raises a key issue with drawing sweeping conclusions from Steam play numbers. It's only one platform and only tracks concurrent players, not copies sold. And Overwatch's case, yeah, so they just go on to make the argument I did. So Rebecca Ford of Warframe. When Warframe released, we had 435 other titles to compete with for the attention of millions of Steam users. Now, games have 20,000 other games in the same year for many millions of Steam users that have already been exposed to 80,000 plus prior releases they might have liked. So this is a great point. This is a really, really good point, because this goes and feeds into game discoverability problems. It feeds into player fatigue, because if you this works with any genre, right? We'll just pretend it's extraction shooters now. But if you are playing, let's say you just want to play an extraction shooter, you don't care if it's like a modern military game or whatever. So let's say you've been playing Tarkov and you've been playing it for years. Why would you play Marathon? Because you've got so much time invested into Tarkov. It's going to be very hard. Another probably better example would be MOBA games. People who play League, why would they go and play Dota? It's going to be very hard for them to move across. I'm not saying there's tons and tons of examples of MOBAs, like there's hundreds of them out there to pick from, so maybe it's not the best example. But the point I'm trying to make is it's very hard to get people to try new stuff if it's in a genre they've already kind of been exposed to. And this, I think, is the problem with a Marathon, because, like I said, you've got to put 10 hours into this game, and it can be quite rough to begin with. The player experience is not great. Everything is kind of like difficult to work out. But once you start getting past that, it starts clicking. And almost everyone I've spoken to have had the same reaction of me as I've had, which is like, oh my God, this is just like, this is crazy. And a lot of it happens when you get onto the Outpost map, which is just really, really good. Like I said, it's System Shock, extraction, survival, horror, which is just really, really, it's like such a good experience. But why would you spend all that time and buy the game if you're playing Arc Raiders, right? Because your first few games of Marathon, you're just going to get wiped out and it's going to be crap. Arc Raiders, it's a much easier sort of, new player experience, let's say. But like I said, this point is really great here, because what would have happened to Warframe if it launched this year? And also, I will say that the general discourse is a lot more negative skewed than it was in the past. So if Warframe came out now and got poor numbers, it would be high guarded in a lot of ways, although Warframe is a much better game than High Guard. Anyway, yeah, it just goes on to recap that. And then I'll just finish the article off for the sake of it. But it says, of course, games like Arc Raiders and Helldivers can sneak up on us all, undoubtedly break through the sea of releases. They can, but Helldivers... So the reason I don't like Helldivers being used in this example is Helldivers is like a generational thing. It didn't exist before. Like, this is creating a new way of doing live service, a new way of doing a cooperative horde shooter, a new way of doing this, like building a massive global community and making everyone feel like they're taking part in global events, which is tied into a live service system. This is like generational, so it's very hard to, I think, put them in the same kind of category. But then again, you could argue Arc Raiders is generational in the extraction shooter category. It's the first game that's really took them major mainstream. That's even more true when they're trying to get a new live service game into the hands of players who've already got multiple established ones to juggle, which is what I've basically said. And nevertheless, Sony's not got the best track record for giving new live service games a lifeline. So time will tell whether Marathon's met its expectations and has earned its backing for the long haul. Right then, let's look at these graphs. I won't keep you long, so don't worry. But what we're looking for is a trend. Now, obviously, this on the left is Arc Raiders. Absolutely fantastic results here. The game launches, gets like stupid amounts of players, 480,000. But really, even if you ignore the player numbers, this graph is very healthy. It's trending down a little bit. But if you're sitting over 200,000 concurrent play, well, 190,000 at the moment, I don't think, well, it's 143. If I could read the graphs, that's what I'm saying. And the charts, people can't. Clearly, I can't as well. But it's got 143,000 players right now, yeah? So this is obviously doing really well. It's always in the top, 10 of Steam, easily. This has been a breakout success. But it depends on how much it costs to develop. And they've clearly made their money back with this game, right? Because the sales have just been massive. On the other hand, you've got Marathon. Now, Marathon, obviously, we don't have anywhere near as much data. But you can see, if we go max here, the line obviously is straighter, but you can see there's a little bit of a downtrend here, and SteamDB is projecting like more of a downturn from today. But if we go back to the week, you can see this effect where it's up and down, up and down, up and down. This, to me, isn't that bad. This is actually quite good because it's showing the game is able to hook players and keep them coming back. I'm not going to do this because we've ragged on high guard enough, but if I brought a high guard graph up, that would just, it's a spike and then it tanks the next day. No one comes back to play the game because there's no substance there. These games have both got substance, but it just comes down to what is a financial success for them. And again, in this arena we're in, where Battlefield 6 devs and devs from multiple studios that work on Battlefield 6 just get fired, even though they've made the biggest selling game of 2025. It does sort of get you thinking, like, what is a financial success and what does that look like? So let's look at a SteamDB chart that is a positive chart. Now, this is interesting because this is Overwatch. No, Overwatch 2, but it's Overwatch. Sometimes I still call it Overwatch 2. Obviously, if we go to max on this, you can see the release at 75,000, then it just dropped down, and it didn't really do much. You can see all the seasons are coming out. Nothing's really going on. In some ways, you can say it's kind of trending down. Then it has a little bump, and then boom. This is the start of the Reign of Talon, the new future, the new development plan for Overwatch. And players really love that. They resonated with it. So if you're an Overwatch dev, you can be like, oh my God, this is shit hot. Look at the numbers. Obviously, you're looking at your internal numbers, right? You're not looking at this. But sad bastards who want to look at Steam charts and base the games they play off a Steam chart would look at this and go, holy shit, this is like more people are playing this now. I mean, look at the jump from 69,000 on Monday, the 2nd of Feb, to the 9th of Feb, going up to 165,000 and breaking their all-time record on the platform. That is a huge success and shows you that if you do stick with a game over time, you can grow. Right then, so where the hell does this leave us with Marathon, and why are people talking about the Steam numbers so much here? It is the player base for Marathon. There is some rumors that PC is by far the biggest platform for this game. If that's true, then it's got to be a bit worrying, because it's like looking at sales figures for your products. You've spent X amount of millions making it. You've only made X amount of millions with sales. How do you bridge the gap? You'll also see the velocity at which you're getting in-game transactions and monetization revenue, and you'll be able to project when will this game be profitable on its current trajectory. And that is a problem. It doesn't matter if you want to be completely like fuck SteamDB. It doesn't matter if people playing a game, whatever. If you enjoy the game, just play it. In this day and age, it really does, because these studios will pull support on games that don't meet their metrics, and that is sad, because I don't feel like I'm some sort of, like, you know, I'm out there, I'm a hipster gamer, I'm playing Marathon and nobody else is. Obviously, loads of other people have tried Marathon, they know what it is. It does have a little bit of a stigma attached to it because of the bad blood Destiny players have got with Bungie, and why were you making Marathon? You should have been sorting Destiny, where's Destiny 3, you know, all this kind of stuff. And you can understand that, right? You know, I'd be, you know, back in the day when I was heavily playing Overwatch, I'd be pissed off if they were doing other things and not fixing Overwatch, right? The Overwatch team, which they kind of were, right? Because they were making PvE but didn't really do it, so I guess they were. But I do think this isn't a very, you can't approach this argument from a simplistic point of view. Every game is financed in a different way and it's got different metrics. Obviously, if there's nobody playing the game, if it's got a few hundred players, it's dead. But if a game's got 10, 20, 30,000 concurrent players, I don't know, like, to me that seems quite successful. I thought, and I think I've said this in videos on Marathon before it launched, I think I actually did. This was on my like the fallout from the Server Slam, which had a higher peak than the launch of the game. Marathon is like, to me it's a game that's going to sit at like 25,000 peak of a day, and it's probably going to drop down to 8, 9, 10, and then that's probably going to be the way it's going to go until it has another moment where there's more stuff that brings people back, and that's going to be down to the developers. Can they do that? Will they be able to make the thing that brings people into the game, or do they end up getting pressured to drop the game, or developers have moved on to other projects because the numbers are not there to facilitate ongoing development of the game? So yeah, and also the moral of the story is, if you enjoy a game, just go and fucking play the game. And if you don't enjoy a game, don't play it. But please don't look at numbers and think, I'm not playing that game because there's not enough players. In some cases, okay, if it's a multiplayer game, yeah, you know, if there's no player base, there's no player base. But if it's a single player game or something, come on. Come on. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I think that'll be pretty spicy because SteamDB, it does rock the industry at times, and Steam Charts does as well, because it's just so public. And I think actually you've got to tip your hat to Valve for doing this, because I bet you a lot of developers and publishers and studios have lobbied them to remove this data. But Valve just don't care. Like, they're subject to it as well. You can look at the Valve games. You know, do you remember Artifact? That didn't really do very well, did it? But look at Deadlock. That's doing quite well at the moment, isn't it? And obviously Counter-Strike and Dota do pretty well. But anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, then let me know what you think about SteamDB and game numbers and charts and player numbers in the comments below. I'll catch you on the next one. See you soon. I'm off to play Marathon.